Hello, wine lovers. I'm going through some of my recent tastings from the wines from Provence, the Côte de Provence, the Côte d'Aix-en-Provence, and some of the various appellations, the Côte de Varrois Provence. And first of all, this a quite vast region with great differences in identity, in style. But this is certainly the cradle of some of the traditional wines that we do find. And of course, I'm enjoying a glass of rosé wine. And for my personal part, rosé wine, I believe a lot of sommeliers and people like me, it took us a long time to really accept rosé as a serious wine. But I have to confess that in the last 10 years or so, I mean, the quality has improved dramatically. And rosé, when we look today at the sales, and I mean, we find rosé wines from Provence all over the world. And I still think that it remains the reference, because the richness of southern France, the old wines from the Grenache, the Cinsault, which we don't really find in so many other places, that's certainly giving identity to these wines. And despite that, you know, the vast majority of wines coming out of Provence being rosé, they certainly have their place. We also have to speak about, I think, perhaps a coup de cœur, as the French would say to me, would be the white wines as well. They represent a fairly small proportion of the total production, but when they're well made, they certainly have something distinct, because first of all, these varieties, the Grenache Blanc, the Vermentine, or Rolle, as we say in Provence, the Clairette, they do, despite being a fairly warm climate, they do offer a great sensation of freshness and vibrancy. Very often these white wines are blended, of course, and when they're carefully getting fermentation and aging in oak, they take on more complexity and more depth. So I've been very intrigued by the top white wines. Continuing on to the red wines, I mean, I don't think there's one style of red, because of course in Provence you have the traditional varieties, the Grenache, the Syrah, the Cinsault, and so forth. But unlike other southern French appellations, we also have the Cabernet Sauvignon. And I think when it's well made, the Cabernet Sauvignon can certainly bring on great complexity and so forth. But in some cases, of course, it's a matter of the ripeness of the tannins of the Cabernet. Sometimes will need a long time to reach maturity when in bottle, or you really have to pick it carefully. But nonetheless, I think that some of the great wines of the Provence, the red wines, they are certainly structured and age-worthy wines. And again, coming back to the rosé wines, I think that everything from the basic level, delivering that freshness, drinking the latest vintage, that's fine. Most of those wines will be drunk at that age. But what we see now with the prestigious estates doing better and better wines, more oak aged, being released later and being released at higher prices, they certainly deserve their place in the great wine shops of the world, on the great wine lists of the world. And I speak about an evolution of a bit more than 10 years for my own part, but what will happen in the coming 10 years or 50 years, it will be very exciting to follow. So, I mean, the most historical region of France, with this great diversity in terms of flavors, in terms of grape varieties, in terms of terroirs, I'm certainly looking forward to follow it for another 20, 30 or 40 years. Cheers.